welcome to yet another session here at the Gosu Academy. I want to just get straight into things here, and I want to show you the best command. This is a must-have. Survivors always on. Put that to yes. When you're dead and you open your scoreboard, normally you will see just money and the score and everything, but by having survivors always on, you will also be able to see how many people were alive from the previous rounds. And for some people who don't have this setting on, they can still see it, but they have to hold down tab, then they have to right click, then they have to click on another thing, and then it shows up. Economy is one of the most important things in Counter-Strike, because if you're playing as pistols or if you're playing as like a full buy, it should massively change the way you approach rounds. Have any of you ever looked into how to count cards at the casino? They have this high-low count system. What it basically is that you have high cards, you have low cards. They either get defined by a +1, a 0, or a -1. So this whole system is defined by pluses and minuses. I have this golden rule of 3. If the opponents survive with 3+ players, so 3 or more players, they build up cash. If the opponents survive with fewer than 2 players, they are unable to build up cash. Let's get to the why. 3 players can drop for 2 and 1 will save money. So the card counting theory is that 5 players alive means a +5, 4 players alive means +3, 3 players alive means +1, 2 players alive is -1, 1 player alive is -3, and 0 players alive is -5. 4 players alive, what does that mean? It means 3 players build a bank. 1 player has to drop for another player, and that other player has to buy armor and nades. So the person who dropped cannot build a bank. The person who got dropped can kind of not build a bank. But the 3 players who survived and don't have to drop, they don't have to buy armor again. They only have to repurchase nades. So they are going to build up some sort of bank. Then we move over to the negatives. And the negatives is when the opponents are 2 players alive. It means that 2 players can drop. The players who get drops, they are going to buy armor. They're going to buy nades. But there is definitely the last guy who doesn't get a drop. He has to spend absolutely everything he has. This whole money system that we have been trying to develop, I guess, by using these numbers here, we can try to predict the buy pattern of the opponent. I'll show you how it works. It doesn't really matter the outcome of the pistol round. In this case, FaZe is going to win it, but it might as well have been Pain. We can move to round 2. FaZe won the pistol round, so if you look at the money, they obviously have more money than Pain. This is actually something that's quite interesting with Economy as well. What happens is FaZe get the bomb plant. Pain no longer think that they can win the round. And so what is actually best for them from an economic viewpoint is to stay alive. But there are certain maps where the bomb radius when it explodes is very big. And Inferno is one of them. You can do what we in my team call Astralis say. You can actually see, they have 3 people in this space. But when this Astralis save call comes in, Davideus moves over to bottom of Banana. And actually many of them do. So what is the purpose of this? Is because the CTs have shown a lot of presence from CT. And since the bomb radius is quite big on Inferno, it's actually huge. Now the CTs, instead of going with the option to save their weapons, is trying to kill as many Ts as possible, because if they do that, they have a bigger likelihood of winning the follow-up round. You see them gathering here, the Ts are saving on Banana, and now they're going to fight them together. They're going to get 1 kill, actually break the golden rule of 3. FaZe now only alive with 2 players. Looking at the economy, we have 2 people who saved, Elish and Kerrigan. If we would give this a score according to this system, right, it would now mean going into round 3, we are looking at -1. Right? So there were 2 players alive, we give it a -1. We see Kerrigan dropping, and he has to rebuy. He loses all his money. Elish drops, a Mac-10 has to rebuy. He loses all his money. Now, Brokey, I believe he bought for himself. Rain has $1,000. Brosen got a drop from Kerrigan. Because we have them set at -1, it means if FaZe were to lose this round, they are not going to be able to buy in the next. That's basically what this number means. If the number is greater than 0, they could be able to buy. And if the number is less than 0, they shouldn't be able to buy. So here there were 5 alive, right? You can see it at this moment. They don't have a whole lot of money. They are 5 alive. we do the math. So +4. And how does the economy look going into this? They have, so if they have 17,500, if you divide that by 4,000, that's not going to be enough for 5 players. This means if FaZe were to lose this round, they are not going to probably be able to afford weapons for everyone. One thing to take into account is that even if they lose this round, they're all going to get $1,400 on top, which works out to quick maths. It works out to $7,000 if I'm not mistaken. Is that enough? Well, yes, it pretty much is. And they have +4 in this case, so they should realistically be able to buy. We can just skip through the round basically. They lose, they have 0 people alive. We go into next freeze time. Look at the money. So here they survived with 0 people. So we have the +4, we do -5, and then it becomes -1. If we go out of freeze time here, you can see we again are at a number below 0, which means if FaZe were to lose this round, they're going to be broke. FaZe are going to win it again, and they're going to be alive with 2 players. So actually, this is going to give them a -1, which puts them at -2 now. Only 2 alive, 2 cannot drop for 3. It's the golden rule of 3. And now Elise drops the AWP, and who was the other guy who was alive? So this is actually, my bad. I jumped the gun a little bit, so it's actually a -4. So Elise was the only guy who survived. Luckily he saved an AWP. But if you go into the freeze time of the next round, you see Elise has to drop, and we have a negative number here, right? That means, since it's like a -4, it means there is no one who has like basically any residual cash. Brokey has a little bit, but they're pretty broke, which means if they lose the next round, they are going to be pretty broke. So they survive with 4, which gives them a +3. So -4 + 3 gives them a -1. I would say in this case, it probably isn't exactly true. We can see what happens when they lose this round. I think they might still buy, because they have 3 people with money. Obviously, they are here at a -1, right? So it's a value quite close to 0. But also, because it's a slightly negative value, you can see what it does to FaZe, actually. 2 of them are just with pistols, because 3 people had money, and this -1 kind of is talking about how many banks they are missing. And then when they lose this round with 0 alive, now it's a -5 on top of the -1. We put them at -6. This means, do they have any money next round? They absolutely don't have money next round. This is a round where they will eco, and so on and so on. So, first of all, I hope this makes sense. It is kind of just a way where my thought is, if you don't understand the money system in Counter-Strike, this is a way to simplify it. And it's basically simplified in a way that you don't even have to think about economy at all, almost. All you have to do is just think about every time the round restarts, just write down in the chat what the value is, right? So the first value you had was -1, but then they stayed alive with 5. Then the next value was +4. And that way, it takes you so little time to actually track the economy, because you don't even actually have to do any conscious tracking of the economy. You just have to write down how many players were on the other team, defined by pluses and minuses. It's exactly the same as the card counting. And I do think that it did make sense in this demo, at least on this half. There are definitely things I'm still yet to figure out, like what happens if you save on T side, 3 people save, for example. Well, they are going to keep their weapons, but they are not going to build up a bank because they don't get any money. How does the system take that into account? That's one thing. Another thing, which is, we could probably use the demo for that, is that at this point, when FaZe lose the round, right, we noted it down, it was a -6, which means when they lost this round, they are going to be broke. And they were. So now they were on eco, right? But obviously, when they took an eco and now lost with 5, because they didn't invest into the round, I cannot give them a further -5, right? Because they were at -6. If I give them another -5 now, it's -11. But that doesn't really work, because now they were on eco. So I will say this is like the worst thing about this system, this like thinking about economy as the card counting system, is that for the round we watched previous, we had them at a -6. And instead of now putting them at -11 because they lost again with 0 players alive, we actually have to write reset. Why do we have to reset it? And the answer to that is that tracking the economy only works until the point where the T's do an eco round. We can't put them at -11 here, because they didn't invest into the round. So because they chose not to buy anything, FaZe, if I would put them at -11 now, it would be completely wrong interpretation of the money from my opponents. So when they take an eco, instead of changing the value, I just write reset, because now I know next round they will absolutely have a buy. Otherwise, they wouldn't take an eco. As obviously exactly what we can see. Then the whole thing starts over. In this round, FaZe win it. How many are they alive? They are 4 alive. So we can start a new chain. And this chain is now, it starts with +3. That means going into this, 3 people have a bank. So what happens next? FaZe survive with 3. Next part of the chain. That's a +1, which makes it +4. Sorry. So how many people have a bank coming into this round? I mean, it is the last round, so maybe they're just also spending literally everything they can. Like, they are all buying head armor and full grenades and stuff like that. But I would still say, obviously, the money here is spread out. Normally, it probably wouldn't be this spread. It's the last round of the half, so it doesn't really matter to balance the economy at this moment. But they do have at least one bank, right? Like, oh, well, not really. This is like 3k, and then there's a little bit over 3k, and then another 2400 on top. So let's just call it, rough estimate is 10k. It would be honestly really nice if I could see this on. Wait, 10k is like way off. This system is not yet perfect. What happens if T save by running the timer out? So they save their weapons, but they don't get money. Well, I'm pretty sure there will be a really easy way to think about that, but just I haven't had the time to actually sit down and look at it from all angles. That's why I'm hoping that throwing this out in the universe, maybe someone else can do it. Also, the tough part is when there's an eco round, you need to remember it's a reset instead of keeping on adding to the value. And so when I was thinking about this, my idea of, let's call it inventing this system, was that I wanted to simplify economy to make it possible for a beginner to track. But I think it's possible for a beginner to understand and actually pick up. And I do think if you actually pick this up early, you could probably even become a professional with the card counting system. If people would learn this as one of the early things in their Counter-Strike career, this is something that could travel with you for your entire career. This is a really simplified version of the card counting system. If this one is so simple and it sort of works, the card counting system tracks the individual players' banks. So for example, when you have a +1, that means your opponents don't have enough to probably have a fantastic buy round. But this +1 could mean that they can have like a hero, because one guy had an additional individual bank going into this round, and maybe with the way the economy has played out, he can buy a hero AK or he can buy a hero AWP. So by tracking not just the buy rounds, but also the individual banks, you are able to predict, okay, when are they going to have an eco? You can predict, okay, when are they going to have a buy round? But you're also able to predict when is the team going to have low money, but one guy will have an additional individual bank. And that allows you to track the hero buys as well, which I don't know of any other system. And actually, you allow professionals to more accurately predict the economy. Even people who have been doing this for ages. What a lot of professionals do is, Yikendar is kind of famous for this, but he has like money binds. So when the round starts, he is a lot of time the economist on his teams, I guess, and he would have like different binds on his keyboard where he would write like they have between 2,000 and 3,000, or they have between 3,000 and 4,000, or they have eco, or they have half buy, or they have whatever. And then he's like, just by pressing a button, he's sending that in chat. And that's super helpful, right? Because then he doesn't have to interrupt his IGL, and also it's clear for everyone. So as you're running out of spawn, even if you didn't hear him say it, you will have it on your screen, so you're aware of it. It's honestly really nice. My opinion is, if someone was to make rules that cut out the bullshit. It is a little bit grimy. Again, if I had the time, I would sit down and do this. Maybe I can find time for it even in my summer vacation, who sees? Like, who knows? I do think that this has the potential to kind of revolutionize people's understanding of Counter-Strike economy.